I gotta say, I love when you send over stuff that just makes my eyebrows shoot up. You know, this time you've really outdone yourself. Dire wolves and red wolves. Talk about a headline that grabs you by the scruff and doesn't let go.
Right, and it's not just the creatures themselves, it's that we're talking colossal biosciences. These guys are really pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible, like genuinely rewriting the rules of the game.
Absolutely. This is ancient history crashing headfirst into cutting-edge science. I mean, who doesn't love a good dose of what if mixed with, holy cow, they actually did it?
Yeah, no kidding. And the material you sent, it's a gold mine. Scientific breakthroughs, ethical quandaries, even some humor sprinkled in. Perfect for a deep dive.
Couldn't agree more. So let's do this. Let's really untangle this whole thing. And let's be honest, where else do you even begin except with the most jaw-dropping statement? Direwolves are back. Sort of?
Yes. That sort of. The tiny word that throws a wrench into the whole Jurassic Park fantasy, right?
For sure. Because when I hear dire wolves are back, my brain goes straight to, like, packs of giant wolves prowling the forests again. But that's not quite the reality here, is it?
Nope, not quite. Hold on to your hats, though, because what Colossal has actually managed to do is pretty mind-blowing in its own right. We're talking gray wolf pups, but with a twist. They've got dire wolf DNA woven right into their genetic makeup.
So not time travel or cloning a perfectly preserved specimen from the Ice Age. It's more like, what, genetic engineering. A bit of cut and paste with the DNA.
Precisely. They've taken specific genetic markers from dire wolves, things that scientists think contributed to their unique characteristics. And using this amazing tool called CRISPR, they've basically inserted those bits of dire wolf code into the DNA of gray wolf embryos.
Okay, hold up. CRISPR? That name rings a bell. Isn't that like a super precise gene editing tool? Like molecular scissors that can snip and stitch DNA strands?
That's the one. It's revolutionizing so many fields, from medicine to, well, apparently resurrecting echoes of extinct species. But just to be clear, we're not talking about recreating a 100% purebred dire wolf here.
Right, that sort of keeps popping up. So they're more like gray wolves with a splash of dire wolf flair. I heard someone describe them as dire wolf cosplayers with ancient DNA bling. That about right?
Pretty much. They might exhibit some traits of their extinct cousins, but they're fundamentally still gray wolves at their core. And get this, the source of that ancient DNA is incredible. We're talking a 13,000-year-old tooth from Ohio, and even a skull fragment found in Idaho that dates back a whopping 72,000 years.
Seriously, that's what, like almost twice as old as the pyramids. It's mind-boggling that we could even extract usable DNA from something that ancient. Talk about bringing the past back to life. So how do you even go from ancient tooth to, well, a living, breathing pup?
It's a scientific relay race, really. Scientists painstakingly extract and analyze these fragmented bits of ancient DNA. They piece together the genetic puzzle, pinpointing those key differences between dire wolves and their modern counterparts.
So they identify the dire wolf genes. What then? Do they, like, inject it into a wolf and poof, instant dire wolf pup?
Not quite that simple. They actually use domestic dog egg cells as the starting point. It's a bit of a biological workaround. You see, dogs and wolves are close enough on the evolutionary tree that their reproductive systems are compatible. They insert the tweaked gray wolf DNA, the one with the dire wolf bits added in, into these dog egg cells.
So we've got ancient DNA, modern gene editing, and now dog egg cells in the mix. It's a real Frankenstein's monster of biology, but in a cool scientific way.
Totally. But the story doesn't end there. They then implant those modified embryos into surrogate dog mothers. Can you imagine being a dog and giving birth to these pups? Talk about an unexpected family reunion across the millennia.
That's wild. So after, what, 2 months, roughly, the gestation period for both dogs and wolves, you've got these pups with a touch of the ancient world mixed in. Pretty impressive. Right?
Oh, absolutely. A huge scientific feat. But, and here's where the sort of really comes into play, there are some experts who aren't completely sold on the idea that these are, dire wolves reborn.
Right. There's been some pushback.
Yeah.
And understandably so. It's one thing to tinker with genes, but are we really bringing back the dire wolf in all its glory? What are the critics saying?
Well, one of the most vocal critics, Vincent Lynch, a biologist from the University at Buffalo, put it pretty bluntly. He called these pups a wolf in a dire wolf costume, basically arguing that while they might have a handful of dire wolf traits, they lack the complete genetic blueprint and, crucially, the entire evolutionary history.
So it's like you can put a lion's mane on a house cat, but that doesn't make it a ferocious predator, right? It's all about more than just looks.
Exactly. And even Matt James, Colossal's own chief animal care expert acknowledges this. He points out that these pups won't inherit those innate dire wolf behaviors. There's no dire wolf parent around to teach them the hunting techniques or social dynamics that were honed over thousands of years. He made a great analogy. Giving someone a lightsaber doesn't make them a Jedi.
Love that analogy.
Yeah.
So skills and instincts aren't just encoded in a few genes.
Hmm?
They're passed down, learned, refined over generations. And that's something these pups, raised by dogs in a completely different environment, won't have access to. Makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. And let's not forget, the dire wolf roamed a very different North America. We're talking different prey, different vegetation, even a different climate. So even if these pups were identical to their ancestors genetically, would they even thrive in today's world?
That's a huge point. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah.
Even if you manage to shave off some edges, the world has moved on.
But hold on, Colossal isn't a one-trick pony, are they? They've got their fingers in a lot of de-extinction pies, don't they? They do indeed. Woolly mammoths, dodos, you name it, Colossal seems to be exploring it. And their CEO, Ben Lamb, is pretty vocal about their ambitions. It's not just about bringing back extinct species. It's about pushing the boundaries of science, exploring the potential of genetic engineering for all sorts of applications. He talks about conservation, even human health. It's a bold vision.
And it's certainly generating buzz, both good and bad. Some people are thrilled, calling it a thrilling new era like Doug Burgum, the U.S. Interior Secretary, did. Others are a bit more hesitant, wondering about the ethics, the unintended consequences, the whole playing God thing. What do you make of all that?
Honestly, it's a minefield. There are valid arguments on all sides. On the one hand, we're talking about potentially reversing extinctions, bringing back creatures that we as humans played a role in wiping out. That's a powerful narrative.
It is. And think about the potential for conservation. Imagine being able to use these tools to bolster populations of endangered species, bring back genetic diversity, even help them adapt to climate change. That's pretty exciting stuff.
No doubt about it. But then you have the flip side. What about unintended consequences? Releasing a genetically modified creature into the wild, even one that resembles an extinct species, could have ripple effects on ecosystems we can't even predict.
Right, and then there are the ethical questions. Is it right to bring back a creature that no longer has a place in the world? Are we playing God a bit too much? These are big, complicated questions that don't have easy answers.
Agreed. But those are conversations we need to be having because, like it or not, this technology is here and it's only going to get more powerful. Now, before we get lost in the ethical weeds, we have to talk about another huge development that got somewhat overshadowed by the dire wolf news.
Right.
Red wolf cloning.
Oh, yeah, that was huge news, too. And a very different approach, right? We're not talking about recreating a long-extinct species, but actually cloning a living, albeit critically endangered, one. They actually managed to create 4 red wolf clones, didn't they?
They did. Using blood samples from wild red wolves, they were able to create genetically identical copies. The goal here is to boost genetic diversity in the captive red wolf population, which is vital for their long-term survival.
So it's like giving a much-needed blood transfusion to a species that's on life support. And this seems to be a much more direct application of cloning technology for conservation. What are the experts saying about this one?
Well, Christopher Preston, a wildlife expert from the University of Montana, had some interesting insights. He sees huge potential in this type of cloning for conservation. He even pointed out that it's less invasive than older cloning methods. You're basically introducing new individuals with potentially unique genetic traits, making the population as a whole more resilient to disease or environmental changes.
So it's not just about numbers, it's about genetic health, making the species stronger from the inside out. Though I did chuckle when I read his comment about how getting blood samples from wild wolves isn't exactly a walk in the park. Even with cutting-edge technology, you still have to deal with, well, wild animals being wild.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that even with all our scientific advancements, we're still dealing with the complexities of nature. You can't just control and predict everything.
It's a humbling thought. So we've got these 2 parallel stories unfolding. The sort of resurrection of the dire wolf through genetic modification and the very real cloning of red wolves to help a struggling species. It's a lot to wrap our heads around, isn't it?
It is. And they both highlight the power and the responsibility that comes with our ever-growing ability to manipulate life at a genetic level. We're rewriting nature's story, and we need to be incredibly careful about what we choose to write.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So key takeaways for our listeners today.
First, the dire wolf pups are an amazing feat of science, but they're not a perfect recreation. They're more like gray wolves with a dash of dire wolf spice. Second, red wolf cloning is a different beast altogether, directly copying a living species for immediate conservation goals. And finally, both these developments force us to confront some really tough questions about ethics, responsibility, and our role in shaping the future of life on this planet.
Well said. Thanks for navigating this wild world of wolves and gene editing with me. This is definitely one of those deep dives that leaves you with more questions than answers, and honestly, that's exactly how it should be. I think we've all got some serious thinking to do about where we go from here.
Absolutely. And a huge thank you to you for bringing us this fascinating material. It's this kind of stuff that really gets the gears turning and reminds us just how much there is to learn and explore about the world around us.
I couldn't agree more. To our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a wild ride, and we hope you'll keep those questions and those conversations going. This is just the beginning of a very interesting chapter in our story.